for Ford for the 5th year in a row. We also received it for Lincoln for the first year. And I tell you, those awards don't come easily. It all boils down to taking care of the customers and having the vehicles you want in stock for you to buy.
The following is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the views of WSIC.
Welcome to Community Centered, a show that features people in the community doing good things. Now, here are your hosts, Debbie O'Handley and Margi Kyle.
Welcome, welcome. You're listening to Community Centered. I'm your host, Debbie O'Handley, with my friend and hostess, Margi Kyle. How are you, friend?
I am good.
Yeah, you survived the Snowmageddon.
Oh, my gosh. Well, yes, I sure did. It was, I blinked twice and it was gone.
We had friends here from New Jersey over the week, and they're like, "You're kidding me, right?"
I know.
And I said, "No, this is it. And if you hang around till 2:00, the sun will be out and it'll be all gone." So they were unimpressed
That's
by
right.
our
Yes.
Snowmageddon. But I hope everybody stayed safe. And
I
it
hope
was
they were too.
It was a time just to hunker down, get snuggly and warm for a night, and
And I
enjoy.
cooked and
Good
cooked
for you.
and cooked.
Good for you. I think I cooked and had some fellowship with my husband. So I think that was a lovely, lovely opportunity to just disconnect and spend some time. So glad to hear that. So again, we talk about this every week on this show, the generosity of this community and the amazing folks that live here. And I just want to give a special shout out to my friends at Christian Brothers Automotive in Huntersville.
Okay.
We had a woman living at the Hope House who was a grandmother who had full custody of her grandkids. And she was involved in a car accident right before Christmas that totaled her car, which subsequently she lost her job from. So then starts the spiral, right? So you're already living in a homeless shelter. And so what are you going to do? So, and it was Christmas and it was all the hustle bustle and everything. So I afterwards went to Steve Grenenbacher and his son Dustin, who own Christian Brothers. And I told my dilemma to them and they said, "You want a car? We got a car. Let's just tune it up. We got a car."
All you have to do is ask.
So she got a car. And she came today to get the title, to get it. We paid for a couple of months of insurance to get her on her feet and on the road. She's already out and has 4 job offers. So it's a turnaround story that would not be possible without the help of this community.
Yeah.
And so, everybody points the applause button at me, but I didn't do this. This was folks in our community, and I'm just the connector. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows, if you have ever need for your automobile needs, you have got to get to Christian Brothers and see Mr. Stephen Grenenbacher and Dustin, because they are the most generous, kind, compassionate folks
That is beautiful.
in our community.
Yeah.
So thank you again, guys. I don't know if you're listening, but I just wanted to make sure that you know that you made a big impact on someone's life, because without transportation, everything just crumbles and
That's
falls
right.
apart. So she's back on the road and getting things back together. So yay.
Good.
Yay to good people.
That's a beautiful
I thought we
story.
could use a good news story on a Tuesday when we seem to be bombarded again with all this heavy-duty news media
Well, and I
stuff.
found on Facebook, Reese, if he can show this picture.
Yesterday is heavy. Put it down.
Put it down.
Yeah.
That's kind of how we're all feeling.
Yeah. I think the news on the fires and all of the other stuff that seems absolutely surreal
Unbelievable.
and unbelievable. We're starting now to hear some good news stories out of there, right?
Yeah.
Folks that are finding people reuniting
Donating
with an animal,
money and-
donating
yeah.
money, finding a wedding ring that was buried in the rubble. These are the things that we always say what makes hope visible, right?
That's
Are
right.
those things that we can hang on to. So just know that we're praying, and we're just in this weird space of knowing that there's going to be just all kinds of hope that's going to come from this tragic story.
And that's where Mocha Moose came to become the color for 2025.
Because it's a good news story?
No, because it's the color of the year, as we talked about last week,
Mm-hmm.
and it's in this palette. It's a reddish brown.
Okay.
And I went to my book, my Bible, my second Bible,
Mm-hmm.
the Dewey Color System.
Glad you
which-
corrected that.
I'm executive director for, and the color vibrations and what it means is these achromatic shades allow you to accept things the way they are right now,
Mm.
which is very unsettling.
Mm-hmm.
They ask that you live in the moment, use these shades to create awareness of what you want. You will be more authentic to yourself and to those around you.
Beautiful.
So that's where that color is coming from.
Welcome, Mocha Moose.
Mocha Mousse. Yeah,
Sounds like you could lick the walls.
absolutely.
It does, doesn't it? It sounds dreamy. It really
But I
does.
know when I want to be softer and not so maybe
Mm.
aggressive, I wear brown
Mm-hmm.
because it grounds you.
Yes.
And we're also talking an awful lot and have talked a lot about grounding
Mm-hmm.
and the
Grounding,
things that are out there.
grounding
to-
sheets and
yeah,
grounding pillows.
ground
yeah.
you.
Yeah. I think this is a time when things feel very unsettled that we have to go out there and hang on to something that anchors us.
You
You
do.
know?
I mean, we've had so much sadness around us.
Hmm. But color, and like you've said, you preach every week, Margie, about color and the impact and the energy that it has and what it can do for you. And so I'm hopeful with a color like Mocha Mousse that you know what it might just change things because gray. I mean, I was never on board with the agreeable gray piece of it. It always just seems so depressing to me and sad that everything was gray. So mousse is lovely.
Yeah. Well, we need that. We
Mhm.
need the healing around us.
Absolutely.
And gray is more a settling color that blends everything together. We've gotten so blended together that we've lost our identity.
Absolutely. Well, we're what, the second week into the new year already? And next week with Martin Luther King Day and inauguration coming up, there's some really big energetic things that are going to be happening
Yeah.
in our community. So we need to be paying attention to that. And the full moon last night, I think that there's a lot of vibration going on.
A lot
for
of
sure.
howling with the dogs.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. There was a lot last night. I could hear some of that. But so we're safe from the snow. We're praying for our friends in fire situations and in really sad situations. We've got new colors on the horizon, new things
Yes.
coming. Our new builds are almost complete.
Good.
I'm delighted that I am still
And I've got my
standing.
granddaughter working on those
painting something
pictures.
for us, which is lovely. And our guest today has just offered up some furniture. So I'm just really feeling abundantly blessed
Yeah.
by our community and people in it and what our new builds are going to do for our community. And I'm excited about our guest today. I know we're going to talk about something that might be, sounding a little heavy, but I think that we are going to provide some great resources,
Yes.
some absolute hope
And
for
that's
some
what we're
folks
all
who
about.
might be experiencing some of this. And so
And they
I'm
are
excited.
helping people who are going through very difficult times.
Yeah, I'm very excited because of some of this. It touches home with me and my heart. And so I want to be the student and learn from our doctor here today, who's going to educate us on some resources and going to tell a good news story, I hope.
Yeah.
So when we come back from break, Margie's going to introduce you to our guest. Be ready to hear some amazing information. And if you have a phone call, you can call the studio at 844-STUDIO-4, and we'll be waiting. Thanks so much.
There's still good in our community. It's community centered with Debbie O'Hanley and Margi Kyle on WSIC, presented by Macintosh Law.
Well, our weather's staying dry as we go through the work week, although getting a little bit cooler over the next couple of days. A pretty typical January day coming up around late Norman. Plenty of sunshine, high temperatures in the upper 40s. We'll dip it back tonight into the low 20s under a clear sky as a bit of a cold front slides by. That knocks us back even more. Heading into our Wednesday, sunshine and low 40s for hump day. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
The WSIC app is available now wherever you get your apps, featuring local deals from great local businesses like ISI Denver.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Thursday, January 16th, Ryan Winters performs at Bin 110 in Cornelius. Lake Norman's upscale night spot has over 450 whiskeys, 100 wines, and a full cocktail list to go through their live music lineup every Thursday through Saturday. Kick off the weekend early with the Ryan Winters music performance Thursday at Bin 110. Friday night, Bill Douglas performs at the Wine Maestro in Statesville. Join Bill for your favorite pop acoustic songs of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, plus flavorful originals. Bill Douglas performs in downtown Statesville Friday night at the Wine Maestro. Beer Lab in Mooresville presents their Paint and Sip Date Night series this Saturday. Come with your significant other or get your friends together for a fun night of painting and sipping. Meg Art Pottery will bring a variety of painting pieces to choose from. Your $30 ticket includes one pottery piece, paint, glaze, and firing. We will see you Saturday for the Paint and Sip Date Night series at Beer Lab in Mooresville. 'Tis the season to lace up your skates at Birkdale on Ice, happening now through January 26th. Birkdale Village in Huntersville has their ice skating rink ready, and they can't wait to lace up their skates with you. Ice skating reservations to ensure skating time slots are accepted. Walk-ups are also welcome. Go to BirkdaleVillage.com for details, information, and tickets to Birkdale on Ice. At Charlotte Motor Speedway, the action does not stop at being just a spectator at a race. You can drive a NASCAR race car by yourself. If you are looking to grab the wheel and drive a race car or take a NASCAR ride-along, then the Richard Petty driving experience will give you an unforgettable time. Book the Richard Petty driving experience today at 704-886-2400. Visit CharlotteMotorspeedway.com for details and more information. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Macintosh Law presents Community Centered with Debbie O'Hanley and Margi Kyle on 105.9 100.7 WSIC. Local starts here.
Welcome back. I am thrilled to be here with my partner, Debbie, and our surprise guest, which this is, I think, the first time we've kept it a surprise.
I think so. Well, that we played along, and other times we just reveal it.
Well, I had the honor of meeting our guest, Curt Beeman, at church, and he approached me and told me his story, which I won't repeat. I want him to tell it, and that he would love to be a guest on our show.
Nice.
And when I learned what his retirement cause was for, I was blown away because it's beautiful.
Lovely.
He is a retired analytical chemist.
Okay.
And you live in the area. And tell us your story about FTD, what it means. I know it has nothing to do with flowers.
Okay. The experience came about because my wife was finally diagnosed with the disease, and it is a disease.
Okay.
FTD stands for frontotemporal degeneration. It refers to the frontotemporal lobes of your brain.
Okay.
That's where all your executive decision level processes originate. Anything coming into the brain passes through. Anything going out of the brain passes through. The degeneration part refers to the fact that brain cells are either dying off or damaged such that they don't operate the way they should, and therefore signals coming in may not go where they should.
Okay.
Signals going out will not necessarily go where they should. And it complicates both physical and mental abilities. It's a progressive disease. Currently, there is no definitive diagnosis, which complicates matters.
When did you notice that your wife had something going on?
About 2016, and it occurred in a curious way. My wife was a voracious reader, and she ultimately obtained a Kindle, and she would read herself to sleep at night, lay the Kindle down on the bedstand, get it the first thing when she got up in the morning, take it to the breakfast table. And it started to occur, she would come to me and say, "Have you seen my Kindle?" and we'd go searching, and sometimes we'd find it directly. It would be an obvious sight, but it wasn't going to be on the breakfast table or the nightstand.
Yeah.
And this started to become a recurring habit. At the same time, she started having difficulty talking in terms of short-term memory and or expressing a thought. You could tell that she knew what she wanted to say. The words just weren't coming out.
Yeah.
And so we started doing some investigation with neurologists. That's an unfortunate situation. FTD is not well known. Even in the Charlotte area now, I would hazard a guess that the majority of practicing neurologists are not aware of it.
Wow.
It is becoming somewhat known. Most particularly last year, there was a lot of publicity about Bruce Willis
I wondered about that.
and Robin Williams.
Yes.
And Bruce Willis, as I understand from the information that his family has shown, he is suffering from what my wife suffered.
Okay.
And again, the initial investigation, the neurologist that we contacted felt that she might have suffered a minor stroke. And so in doing MRIs to investigate that and his examination, he referred us to a speech therapist because he thought her problems were due to the stroke. That only confused the issue
Okay.
because she actually showed improvement with the speech therapy. And that was fine if it were a stroke.
Yeah.
But when we ultimately learned that indeed it was due to the frontotemporal degeneration, it shouldn't have been beneficial at all. But that's illustrative of the problem with diagnosing. At this point in time, there is no definitive marker for diagnosing the FTD. There is about 20% of the patients that have a genetic defect
Okay.
that is linked to FTD. Unfortunately, it is not a marker such as they have now for Alzheimer's and other diseases. All they know is that a diagnosed FTD patient that has that marker, okay, that makes sense. Some of their family members may have that same genetic defect, but they never developed the symptoms and or disease. So there's no definitive diagnosis. The only definitive diagnosis is after the fact, a post-mortem autopsy,
Wow.
where
Yeah.
they go in, they see, yes, there are damaged areas in the brain, actually dead cells. The research neurologist that we actually got the definitive diagnosis from worked at UNC Chapel Hill,
Okay.
and he was the recognized expert in the disease in the state and, more importantly, nationwide. After examining my wife and explaining the diagnosis, he then looked at MRI images and said, yeah, you can see the difference. Compare the front area of the brain towards the back area, and I could see a little bit of a wider gap, if you will. But again, without other features or diagnoses, that's not definitive.
Yeah.
There's supposedly a PET scan, that stands for positron emission tomography, that is a little more definitive, but it's a very expensive routine, and that's actually how we hooked up with Dr. Kaufer at UNC. Was that he did research and they could underwrite the cost of a PET doing research, but we never got that far. So if you want me to continue our story, the situation then deteriorated, and again, the diagnosis for my wife was there are several variants of the disease. She was diagnosed with primary progressive aphasia. And primary, that's just, important, number one. Progressive is the key word because it gets worse as time goes by. Aphasia is associated with your ability to communicate. And I actually got a definition here if I could find it, but I can't find it right now. But essentially, it compromised her ability to communicate. Again, she would have difficulty processing words that we would say to her. She couldn't get out words that she wanted to say.
Yeah.
And it
very frustrating.
It progressed over the years. Again, she was officially diagnosed in 2018.
Can I ask you her age at the time?
In her early 70s.
Okay.
If I can keep that straight. And I'll try to mention something later according to that with respect to the age, because it does occur earlier than that. I mentioned that it was one of the common or most common forms of dementia for people under 60. In my opinion, that's a more tragic situation.
Oh, I think it is too.
In our case, old people are supposed to become senile. And so it was
have that to look forward to.
It was somewhat understandable. But as time went on, she became less and less capable of doing things. And that's perhaps the tragic thing of FTD. You lose the person, but the body is still there. And there's a neurotherapist that wrote a book called Ambiguous Loss. Her name is Pauline Boss. And she compares this to the Vietnam era wives of missing in action servicemen, where no body, no death certificate. What are they going to do? They can't grieve as normal. There's always that hope, hey, he'll show up. This is the same way with FTD. Again, you lose that person. It's not the one you've lived with, known, won't interact, let alone all the other caregiving things that impact you. And so very difficult for caregivers to deal with, for sure. Time went on. I was the sole caregiver for a year because having gotten the diagnosis, it's okay, I know we're going to have to do this, we're going to have to do that. As time went on, she became more compromised in her abilities, stumbled when she walked, couldn't really communicate, started having trouble eating, and coincidentally, I was diagnosed with tongue cancer in the last year of her life, and so I was going to need help, and so I looked towards getting in-home care.
We're gonna go to a commercial break. We'll be right back.
Law presents Community Centered with Debbie O'Hanley and Margi Kyle. Coming up on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, our weather's staying dry as we go through the work week, although getting a little bit cooler over the next couple of days. A pretty typical January day coming up around Lake Norman. Plenty of sunshine, high temperatures in the upper 40s. We'll dip it back tonight into the low 20s under a clear sky as a bit of a cold front slides by. That knocks us back even more heading into our Wednesday. Sunshine and low 40s for hump day. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Our military faces a crisis. Recruitment down. Morale weak. Our leaders more focused on going woke than killing terrorists and defending America. President Trump nominated Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense to change things. Hegseth isn't an insider or a swamp dweller. He's a decorated veteran of the United States Army who deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. And he's exactly who we need leading the Department of Defense. Hegseth will ban woke nonsense from our armed forces, strengthen our military, and make our soldiers proud to serve. Call your United States Senator at 202-224-3121. Tell them stand with Trump. Confirm Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense. Again, call your senator at 202-224-3121. Tell them to vote to confirm Pete Hegseth and make our military great again. Paid for by American Leadership PAC.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Nothing says wow like a gift from Harrison's. Get what they want and what they need thanks to our huge selection of work staples and Western favorites from Ariat, Carhartt, Wrangler, and more. And there's nothing merrier than a new pair of boots from Harrison's. Find us on Norman Station Boulevard in Mooresville.
Hi, this is Andy with Lake Mountain Coffee, located at 110 West Broad Street in Statesville. Many of you probably know us from our large coffee house downtown, but did you know we're also the owners of Statesville's first and only coffee roasting facility? We purchase coffee beans from around the world, bring them right here to Statesville, roast them in our facility for our customers around the region. Why would you go to a grocery store, purchase old coffee beans off the shelf, or any other source where you can have fresh roasted beans at Lake Mountain Coffee, 131 West Broad Street in Statesville.
Are you in constant pain, under constant stress, just need a moment away? Repeat after me, Serenity Now Massage Therapy. SerenityNowMassageandWellness.com, with locations in Mooresville and Cornelius.
Bob McIntosh here with the McIntosh Law Firm in Davidson. Serving this community has been a collective passion of our law firm since 1997. We offer the quality legal services and results you would expect from a large downtown firm, but with a personal, community-focused approach right here at home. The McIntosh Law Firm, your local legal resource.
To learn more about the McIntosh Law Firm, visit McIntoshLawFirm.com.
Prioritizing your health is one of the best ways to take care of yourself. From routine visits to the joys of pregnancy to the illnesses that stop you in your tracks, Iredell Health System will be by your side. Learn more at iredellhealth.org.
It ain't easy being number one, but we make it look good.
WSIC.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Wholesale prices rose less than expected in December. The Labor Department today reported the Producer Price Index rose just 0.2% last month. Excluding food and energy, the core PPI was flat compared to the forecast. Tomorrow we'll be hearing about consumer prices. Both these reports will factor into the Fed's interest rate decision later in the month. Markets today up between 0.25%. Several companies are looking at layoffs. Facebook and Instagram parent Meta Platforms plans to cut 5% of its low-performing workers. The owner of whiskey maker Jack Daniels is cutting 650 jobs. Southwest Airlines says it's implementing a hiring freeze, even for interns. Los Angeles already had a housing affordability crisis before those devastating wildfires. The disaster is now making it worse. The manager at one LA rental company says people are turning the market into an eBay with a bidding war for homes. I'm Nancy Lyons, Bloomberg Radio.
Who is this? This is 105.9 100.7.
WSIC. Local starts here.
Macintosh Law is a proud sponsor of Community Centered with Debbie O'Hanley and Margi Kyle on 105.9 100.7 WSIC. Local starts here.
Welcome back, and we want to thank the McIntosh Law Firm for their sponsorship, and also thank you, Curt Beeman, for your explanation and sharing your personal testimony and story about what you've gone through with your wife. I'm sure sometimes as you tell the story, it's painful to know what you walked through, but as someone who can relate to it, I'm transfixed by the narrative in the story, and I'm hopeful that we're going to have a resource, because for people such as myself, as a caretaker, it is a very frustrating and difficult challenge to be dealing with a loved one in this situation. So I'm going to ask you to finish the personal story, and then let's talk about the good news, the support, and the support group that I'm interested in learning more about.
Trying to remember, I think I left off that midway through the caregiving process, I needed external help. And so we were fortunate that we had long-term care insurance that defrayed part of the cost.
Yeah.
However, there is a wide variation in available help in the Charlotte area. Started out, we used one, and it was just general purpose assistance, housekeeping, helping her maybe get dressed and things like that. As her condition deteriorated, it became obvious that we needed certified nursing assistants, and they're even less available in the in-home care industry than the routine. And in fact, I use expression, it's just hard to get good help any longer. Even have some horror stories.
I bet you do.
Personally, with respect to finding people that were reliable.
Yeah.
Even though I was very specific in interviewing candidates to begin with, that wasn't sufficient. It didn't pan out. So anyway, we did get the in-home care assistance. It got to the point where my wife was becoming practically mute. She needed assistance in eating. I had to demonstrate to the aides what worked and not what they thought would work.
Yeah.
Trying to put the food under the lip and prod a little bit to get her to open and eat. That didn't work with my wife. She had to see the spoon or fork coming to her before she would do that. You have to educate the caregivers.
Sure.
Each case is different, but you have to educate the caregivers. Again, as I've said, it's a roller coaster experience. It's all downhill. Unfortunately, the end is death. There's no definitive diagnosis at the time. There's no cure at the time. There's no real ameliorative therapy at the time. It can be complicated by misdiagnosis. Some medications that work for Alzheimer's, for example, are actually injurious to those with FTD.
Wow.
So there is a knowledge vacuum even among medical professionals. It got to the point where finally my family convinced me to put my wife in a facility.
Yes.
Even though that was against her wishes. We had the the long-term care insurance to hopefully allow her to remain home. That's another personal story that I won't share at this time. But I put my wife in a facility. 30 days later, she died.
Oh, bless.
A hallmark is that the hospice nurse that was in attendance signed the death certificate as indicating that her death was due to FTD. And that is now becoming an emerging practice as opposed to the routine heart failure, whatever. The process was always downhill. During the sequence, my personal mantra was, my wife has dementia, but I'm the one that's going crazy.
Yes.
Because of the demands of caregiving, because of the lack of guidance, information, resources. Fortunately, I had come in contact with a gentleman that facilitated a FTD caregivers support group in the area. And I met with him, heard him tell me his case. I realized that he was a survivor.
Yes.
I wanted to be a survivor.
Yes.
And that's why I participated in the local group, because he was even worse off than I, in that nobody knew anything about the FTD. He didn't even know what questions to ask, let alone whom to ask or where to go.
Yeah.
So over a period of time, the group was established. They met in South Charlotte, and then as time grew, people like myself that live outside of Concord, it was difficult to make the journey down to South Park area, for example. And we were able to establish a group for it's listed as the Mooresville group. And we floated around, bounced around, met in some restaurant facilities a couple times. That became unmanageable, really. And so I was finally able to procure space for our support group to meet on a monthly basis at Mount Zion United Methodist in Cornelius. We meet on the third Monday of each month at 10:30 a.m., goes from 10:30 to noon. And in fact, I will be facilitating the group at our next meeting, which is this coming Monday. We'll provide contact information, but we invite any and all people to come, because we are at least a source of information. You used the expression earlier about what stays in Vegas. You know, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Well, that's the modus operandi of our group.
Yes.
That specifics stay in there.
Confidentiality, I think, is key.
Exactly. Yeah. And yet, what we try to provide and what I found helpful, number one, my first few times in participating in the group, I felt guilty when it came to me to share my story, because I had heard absolute horror stories about thousands, tens of thousands of dollars gone, or situations family members don't understand. The expression that I used with my children at the time was, I'm losing your mother. And I know my son didn't really understand what I was saying at the time. And so with this group, we provide an opportunity to come, to vent, to ask questions, to provide support to others.
That's right.
Because each case is different, but there are going to be some commonalities of having to deal with problems. Again, where to go. And,
unfortunately, Curt, we have to go on a break, but when we come back from break, I want the contact information and the name of the group, when it meets again, and how someone could get in touch with you if they have questions.
Or
you can always
call
call
in.
the studio, 844-STUDIO-4, if you have a question, and let Margie and I stop hogging all the airtime with our questions. So we'll be back shortly here on Community Centered.
Community Centered, presented by Macintosh Law with Debbie O'Hanley and Margi Kyle, will return after this short break on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Well, our weather's staying dry as we go through the work week, although getting a little bit cooler over the next couple of days. A pretty typical January day coming up around late Norman. Plenty of sunshine, high temperatures in the upper 40s. We'll dip it back tonight into the low 20s under a clear sky as a bit of a cold front slides by. That knocks us back even more. Heading into our Wednesday, sunshine and low 40s for hump day. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Thursday, January 16th, Ryan Winters performs at Bin 110 in Cornelius. Lake Norman's upscale night spot has over 450 whiskeys, 100 wines, and a full cocktail list to go through their live music lineup every Thursday through Saturday. Kick off the weekend early with the Ryan Winters music performance Thursday at Bin 110. Friday night, Bill Douglas performs at the Wine Maestro in Statesville. Join Bill for your favorite pop acoustic songs of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, plus flavorful originals. Bill Douglas performs in downtown Statesville Friday night at the Wine Maestro. Beer Lab in Mooresville presents their Paint and Sip Date Night series this Saturday. Come with your significant other or get your friends together for a fun night of painting and sipping. Meg Art Pottery will bring a variety of painting pieces to choose from. Your $30 ticket includes one pottery piece, paint, glaze, and firing. We will see you Saturday for the Paint and Sip Date Night series at Beer Lab in Mooresville. 'Tis the season to lace up your skates at Birkdale on Ice, happening now through January 26th. Birkdale Village in Huntersville has their ice skating rink ready, and they can't wait to lace up their skates with you. Ice skating reservations to ensure skating time slots are accepted. Walk-ups are also welcome. Go to BirkdaleVillage.com for details, information, and tickets to Birkdale on Ice. At Charlotte Motor Speedway, the action does not stop at being just a spectator at a race. You can drive a NASCAR race car by yourself. If you are looking to grab the wheel and drive a race car or take a NASCAR ride-along, then the Richard Petty driving experience will give you an unforgettable time. Book the Richard Petty driving experience today at 704-886-2400. Visit charlottemotorspeedway.com for details and more information. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
All community, all the time. Macintosh Law presents Community Centered on 105.9 100.7 WSIC. Local starts here.
Welcome back. I understand exactly where you're coming from, and I respect what you're trying to do for others who have walked in your shoes. I would love for you to share with us how to get a hold of you and where the meetings are, and the fact that if they come to that meeting, they will be embraced and their privacy will be respected.
Okay, well, again, the group is officially referred to as the Mooresville chapter, if you will, of the FTD Caregiver Support Group in the Charlotte area. There is also...
Is there a website for that?
Not necessarily a
Not
website, and so my personal contact information is probably going to be the best way for any listeners to at least initiate inquiry as to where to go. And I'm happy to share that information. My telephone number is a 704-787-8872. 704-787-8872. I use an answer machine to screen the incoming calls.
Good for you.
So if I don't recognize the caller ID, I let it go to the machine. So I would say, please talk to the machine. If I'm there, I can pick up and talk to you directly. Otherwise, I can return your call and pursue it. I have an email, all lowercase letters. C as in Charlie, P as in Papa, and Beeman, B as in boy, M as in Mike, N as in November, at gmail.com. And again, just an initial inquiry. I can put you in contact with others if you're not just interested in the group, or more importantly, the group meets the third Monday of every month at the Mount Zion United Methodist Church. So this coming Monday, the 20th, we will start at 10:30 a.m. Just show up at the church. We meet in the educational wing, and there should be someone outside waiting to admit you there.
Good.
And that's in Cornelius, right?
Yes.
Cornelius.
Yes.
Across from the fire department.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. And all are welcome. Doesn't necessarily have to be a diagnosis if you're just interested in trying to get help.
Yes.
Getting a diagnosis. Each case is different. We spend time sharing individual updates. Okay, what's your month been like? Anything that we can do and help for? Primarily, the sharing, I think, is the most helpful for the caregiver because the caregiving experience can be deadly. That was what led me to participate.
It's a very lonely feeling.
If you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be there
That's
to
right.
take care of your loved one. So this group, again, allows people to share their personal experience, ask questions. How do I deal with this? A trivial example maybe is my wife, midway through the experience, got up in the middle of the night and was walking out the door to the garage. And I said, "Where are you going?" "I want to go home."
Yeah.
That is a common purpose or refrain in many forms of dementia. And me being the logical person I was, I said the wrong thing, which was, "You're home." Logic is lost upon these patients. I've since learned through some other trainers that a different approach often works. You sort of get in tune with them, but distract them. For example, that they offered the thing that someone in a facility was saying, "I want to go home," and the person, rather than saying, "You're home," said, "What is it you want to see?" or who do you want to see there? And they may have mentioned a name or something like that. "Do you have a picture in your room?" And they'd go off. So the idea was you responded to their need to go home, but you really furthered that by accepting rather than being negative and saying, you're already here. Another thing I find valuable in the group is it gets you away from the situation. And recently we had a mother-daughter situation that was talking about the father, husband. And I know at the time of the incident, it was anything but humorous and good-natured and everything. But when they were telling it and sharing it with the group, they actually laughed at one another about that. I felt that was so good because I think that it helped them cope with their situation. And that's the type of environment that I think we try to present in the support group meetings, that, again, you can unload. We had someone that even admitted, "I've considered committing murder about someone that's taking advantage of my loved one under these circumstances." But it's a sharing. Hopefully it helps the caregiver survive, and also it expands our knowledge about it, where there is a vacuum, not only in Charlotte, but across the nation. So,
what a gift. What a gift.
Thank you for creating something like this and a safe space where people can come and share. Because, I know in my social circle, people ask, "Oh, how's your mom?" I'll be like, and then they're off to the net. They don't really want to know because it also sounds contagious. So
I mentioned the ambiguous loss and grieving. That's so true in terms of when you go through grieving for a spouse, for example. No one that has not lost that spouse really knows what you're going through.
They have no idea.
They either don't know what to say or they say the wrong thing.
That's right.
And they start divorcing yourself because they don't know, gee, I don't want to be around her.
They either don't say anything and remove themselves, which feels even worse, or they say the wrong thing.
Well, I remember a dear friend of mine, right after my husband passed, she said, "Well, he's in a better place." And I said, "Well, I'm not." And she just stopped. She said, "I'll never say that again." People don't think.
We don't train anybody or educate anybody on what are the right words to say when you're going through something like this, and not a whole lot of people can be extremely empathetic.
Our guest next week is my cousin, and we did a podcast on what not to say.
Yeah, that's important.
So, and she will be on next week for
I
a
think
few
that's
minutes.
very
so
important that
we can
people
maybe ask
understand
her.
that. Absolutely, that it's there should be a whole dialogue.
Yes, there should be.
On what
Yeah.
to say and what not to say.
You know, and if you don't know what to say, just say, I'm here for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's all you have to say.
But follow it up.
Yes.
Be there.
That's
don't,
right.
Don't just say, I will be.
Yeah.
Be there.
Yeah. Well, Carl, I think what you've done is brought some hope. I think there's a lot of people that, can get angry in this situation and feel resentful and all of the things. And by creating a support group, and especially in a church environment, must feel delightful to some of these folks who think, if I can only make it to that once a month meeting, I'm going to be okay, because it can be a really difficult, challenging time, and a very stressful time too. So thank you for what you do and what you've done and sharing your story. I think it's serendipitous for those of us that are going through it to hear your story, especially this new part of the year, right, where we can set goals and things. And that was part of my goal this year, was to say, try not to be so frustrated, or, find encouragement in this. And I want to thank you for doing that, because it's a challenge.
Yes.
It's a challenge, but there's always hope on the horizon. There's always hope in the headlines. There's always something to be hopeful for. And finding that you took a stressful situation and turned it into something good is really a positive, good thing for 2025 to learn about.
Absolutely.
And for our listeners too. So again, if you have any questions, you can always call the studio, 844-STUDIO-4. Reese knows how to get in touch with Margie and I. He's waiting if you do have a call. And if this show runs over and you didn't get us, you can always reach out via email to Curt, or via his phone number that he left with us.
Yes.
That he screens, which is a wise thing to do these days. It's a very wise thing, because
lots
you
of
never
stories
know.
there too.
Yes, I'm sure you have a lot of stories you could tell. We were talking at one of the breaks that you are a South Hadley, Mass person, and if any of you know South Hadley, you know it's like the Arctica or the tundra up there. But a professor at Mount Holyoke? Mount Holyoke College. So you know what you're talking about. You've done the research.
In some realms.
Yes. You're educated, and I love that you put your grief into action and did something really good with it. Yeah. And I think that's a really commendable thing for you. You get a gold star.
Thank you.
A gold star of hope. I think it's not easy, and especially as educated as you are, to be frustrated by something that doesn't really make any sense must be extremely frustrating. So I'll give you even another gold star for that, because I don't have the educational background, but I do share the frustration. So,
well, and following Bruce Willis is on Facebook, there are times when I think, wow, there's something wrong with that man. He's looking so normal.
Yeah, but they look the same, right?
Yeah.
It's just they don't act. And there's the whole, headpiece of it. So again, congratulations
thank you so much
for making
joining
hope
us.
happen. We are grateful for that. We want to thank the McIntosh Law Firm again. I always want to thank Margie and Reese for being in the studio there and keeping us on point, because that's not easy to do with these two dizzy broads, right?
Speak for yourself.
There you go, for sure. But again, thank you, Curt Beeman. If you reach out to him, please, and let us know how we can help. That would be amazing. We appreciate it. You're listening to Community Centered here on WSIC 105.9.
Serving you better than ever before. WSIC, Statesville, W290DK Mooresville, W260